Missouri versus Iowa. This is my Week 2 bowl game. Best bet. Marco, why don't I let you start? I know we talked beforehand. I like Iowa here. Why don't you say you like Iowa, which makes me feel good. Why do you like Iowa?
Well, this is a situation, we talk about public perception. Public perception coming into this game is going to be all Missouri. They finished the season winning 3 in a row. Iowa, just the opposite, finished the season losing 3 in a row. But if you dig deeper into the Iowa 3 losses, what I see is Iowa lost the week before they played Ohio State. Look-ahead situation. Then they lose to Ohio State in gut-wrenching fashion. I mean, they played Ohio State tooth and nail the whole game. Then they have the carryover, hangover effect the next week to lose again. So here's a team that finished the season in the public's eyes horribly and are going to be dismissed looking at this Missouri team because they won 3 games. But if you look at Missouri's 3 wins at the end of the season, they came against Kansas State, who was overrated. They had a couple good games early, but we saw what they were later in the season. Iowa State, a bad team, and Kansas, a horrible team. They rolled over those 3 teams.
Which is my point about Missouri. This is a team that is 5-12 ATS against winning teams. They've got a great, even back a couple years ago when they were in the national championship picture, they got a great offense against overmatched opponents. They look really good, but when someone can smack them in the mouth, they don't do as well. And the numbers back that up. And this Iowa team, like you said, very physical, Big Ten team, probably undervalued a little bit. And this is the key to me, great bowl history. And we keep talking about it during these bowl games, is bowls are a different animal. If you've done well historically, that's very meaningful. They've covered 5 of 6 bowl games. So motivated to turn things around. To me, it's just a simple public perception play, is Missouri does not match up well against this type of team. And again, you might say, and looking at the total of 47, it makes me feel a little bit better, is if it is a track meet, Big Ten teams don't typically do well in track meets. And I also think this is public too, where teams, public likes to bet against Big Ten teams in bowl games. And I talked about it in another podcast. I did some research for Chad Millman at ESPN. He asked me to. And the Big Ten is, in the last 5 years, and I'm going off the top of my head here, is 18-22 ATS in bowl games. I'm almost sure of that, but don't hold me to it. I know they're about 4 games down. So, yeah, they've underperformed a little bit, but not near as much as people might think. So I think that the whole anti-Big Ten thing is a little strong. And to me, when you add it all up, I think Iowa should be 3 here.
Well, again, this is exactly it. You talk about the public perception angle of it and how people view the Big Ten. You've got a Missouri team that's got a 10-2 record playing an Iowa team that's 7-5, and they have the line Missouri -1, basically just pick the winner. To me, for John Q. Public looking at this game, he's going to look and say, this game's being played on December 28th, but this is my Christmas gift because this is too good to be true.
Which it's usually, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
That's right.
It brings up one last point. I'll do my projection now, though. I've got Iowa 24-20 in this game. Again, I think there's real value, but that's a good lesson. Is real value is like 4 points.
I actually got Iowa 27-20. So we agree that Missouri's scoring 20.
Yeah. It does bring up a good point. We're now a week plus by the 28th when this game is being played into the bowl season. Another handicapping angle that starts to emerge now is how do conferences do? I read a very interesting article in the New York Times Magazine written by the guy that does a blog, 538. He's a political guy, but he's a stats guru. He said that college football is almost impossible for a computer to really know who the best team is because there's so few cross-conference games. And that the fact is that if the Big Ten, let's say, is much worse than people think, then Iowa's record doesn't mean as much as we think it does. Or if the Big Ten's a lot better, Iowa's record is much better. Or Iowa is much better than the record. And since there's so few meaningful games in the pre-conference season, and since the bowls, Until the bowls start, you really don't know how good these conferences are. In basketball, you see a lot more,
I
cross
was just going to
conference.
say they get it. They get it. You have all the Big Ten, ACC challenges.
And the computers are able to figure this stuff out. But here's the thing. Bowl season progresses. You have the opportunity to start seeing how's the Big Ten doing, how's the Big 12 doing. And you've got to start applying that in your handicapping. So we're projecting this game more, almost 2 weeks ahead now. We're looking at this game as we record. And again, that's valid. In fact, a lot of these line moves have happened. The wise guys are firing on these games. But if you're waiting to game day to bet, you've got some disadvantages because all the lines have been touched up. But your advantage is you've got the knowledge of how these conferences are doing.
Good point. I can't disagree with you, sir.
Okay, now it's your turn to continue the conversation in the comments section with Marco and me. And that's it for this week. But then next week, we're going to be looking at all the biggest bowl games, including New Year's Day. And we'll be looking at the final week of the NFL season. So very exciting. Enjoy the holidays, guys.